Okay, so we've already learned about slope from a graph, and we talked about when we have that graph right here. If I have points on the graph, we find the points that cross at the corner of the boxes, okay, that cross at whole numbers, and we count our rise over run, okay? So we talked about slope being rise over run. Well, rise, I always go from left to right, but it really doesn't matter which way you count. So if I start at this point here, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went down 4, so that'd be negative, and then I went over 1, 2, 3. So my rise would be down 4, and my run, which is left to right, would be over 3. 4 over 3, I can't simplify that at all, so I leave it my fraction, and that's my slope. So what we're going to talk about today is how to find slope from a table or 2 points or even an equation. So slope is normally represented with an m. That'll make more sense when we get into the equation. And we can see slope as rise over run, which we already talked about, or you can have this lovely equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? You will actually also see it, if you take higher level math, as the change of our y's over the change of our x's, okay? So y's on top, x's on the bottom. Why? Because y's are up and down, x's are side to side. So you definitely need to know it's rise over run. You definitely need to know this equation right here. The change of y's over change of x's helps some people. You don't have to completely understand that yet, okay? So the first thing that I want to talk about is, does this make a line? So I'm going to give you some points, and we're going to try to figure out whether it makes a line or not. So if it makes a line, we should have a consistent slope. That slope should be constant. No matter what 2 points we choose, that slope should simplify to the same thing. So if we have this table, this is our first example. If we have the table -4, -1, 2, 5 for our x's, and then we have 9, 11, 13, and 15 for our y's. What we want to see is, are these moving at the same rate? So if I look at my x's, to get from -4 to -1, I add 3. To get from -1 to 2, I add 3. To get from 2 to 5, I add 3. Now look at your y's. To go from 9 to 11, I add 2. To go from 11 to 13, I add 2. To go from 13 to 15, I add 2. So if I take my slope from each of these, we want to make sure that they're the same. Remember slope, we have our y's over our x's. We already found the change in them. So my y's over x's. The change in my y for the first one was 2 over 3. Okay, so that's good. Now the next one, I have 2 over 3. That's good. And then the last one, I have 2 over 3. Those slopes are all the same, so I can say, yep, this is a line, and my slope is 2 over 3. Okay, let's try another one. So this one, we're going to make our table. Here's my x's, here's my y's. For my x's, I'm going to have 8, 6, 4, 3. On my y's, I'm going to have 7, 2, -3, -1. Now what's really important is you have to set up those slopes and simplify them to compare them, because it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm giving you each consecutive point on the line, okay? Maybe if we go back to that first example, maybe my next point I counted by 6 and then I went up by 4. Okay, so you have to really make sure that when we're comparing those slopes, the difference from 5 to 11 is 6, the difference from 15 to 9 is 4. But if I take that 4 over 6, what happens when I simplify it? I take a 2 out of top and bottom, and I still have 2/3. I still simplify to the same slope. So as we compare this one, we want to make sure that that's happening all the way through. So from 8 to 6, I go down 2, so negative. From 6 to 4, I'm going down 2, so negative. From 4 to 1, or 4 to 3, I'm going down 1. Okay, this is down, it's negative. Now look at your y's. From 7 to 2, I go down 5. From 2 to negative 3, I go down 5. And from negative 3 to negative 1, I go up 2. So that's a little strange. Let's see what happens when we make our slopes. So my first one, I have 5 over negative 2. Negative 5 over negative 2. Oh, negative over negative. What happens? We bam, bam, and it's a positive 5/2. Next one, we have negative 5 over negative 2. Oh, negative over negative. Bam, bam, it becomes a positive. And the last one, I have 2 over negative 1. 2 and a negative 1. Well, I can't simplify 5 over 2. Can't simplify 5 over 2. Can't simplify, I mean, I guess you could make 2 over negative 1. You could make just a negative 2. So these aren't all the same slopes. So does this one make a line? Nope, not a line. Okay, I want you guys to try this next one. So I want you to tell me whether it makes a line or not. If it makes a line, what's the slope? So your x's are 12, 16, 20, 24, and your y's are negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Go ahead and pause and try. Okay, so that was from a table. Now let's start connecting the dots from a table to an equation. So when we have the table, this is going to be our third example. Now we're going to actually just find the slope. Those are going to be our instructions. So I'm telling you it's a line, find the slope. So I'm going to do another table. And this one's going to be 17, 19, 23, and 25. Your y's are going to be negative 6, negative 8, negative 12, and negative 14. So we're going to find the slope. So the difference in my x's. From 17 to 19, I go up 2. From 19 to 23, we go up 4. From 23 to 25, we go up 2. From negative 6 to negative 8, I go down 2. From negative 8 to negative 12, we go down 4. From negative 12 to negative 14, we go down 2. So let's set up our slopes, because this one looks a little funny. It doesn't look like they all have the same slope. So on that first one, I go down 2, over 2. So rise, over, run. Next one, negative 4, over 4. Next one, change in y's would be negative 2. Change in x's would be positive 2. So simplify these. What happens? Well, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So they do come out to be the same. So this does make a line, and your slope would be negative 1. Always give us your simplified slope. So let's connect that now to an equation. Well, if I, 2 points. So now I'm going to give you 2 points. We have 5, 7, and 9, negative 3. Now each of these are an XY point. The first thing that I always want you to do is label. Label, 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 label. You're going to hear it 500 times this year. So my first point, we're going to label x1, y1, because that's our first point, our first x, first y. Second one, we're going to name x2, y2, second x, second y. Now up at the top, up here, we have this equation written down. We're going to bring that back down here. So we said our slope is the change of y's, so subtracting the y's over subtracting the x's. Occasionally you're going to see this as y1 minus y2 or x1 minus x2. Okay, that's okay. If you start with y1 on top, you have to start with x1 on the bottom. Okay, so as long as that's consistent, you're good to go. So now let's plug and chug. So my y2 is -3, my y1 is 7 over, my x2 is 9, and my x1 is 5. Okay, make sure you label. That's the biggest mistake that people make in here. So -3 minus 7 would be -10. 9 minus 5 would be 4. And then we have to think, can we simplify that? We don't want a decimal. Okay, decimals are really hard to count on graphs. So 2 goes into top and bottom. So -10 divided by 2 would be -5. 4 divided by 2 would be 2. There's my simplified slope. Okay, now you can, if you like the table better, let me show you another example, and you actually could do the table, even if we give you 2 points. So if we give you the points 9, 18 and 27, 3, you could, if you really want to, I'm going to show you this 2 different ways. You could make a table. Here's my x, y, x, y. Well, we can find our slope, the difference in x's, to get from 9 to 27. What did we do? We went up 18. To get from 18 to 3, what did we do? We went down 15. So the change of my y's, -15, over change of my x's is 18. Simplify that. 3 goes into top and bottom, so we have -5 over 6. Or you could go ahead and use the equation. So with the equation, it's right above that. My y2 would be 3 minus my this should be a 1. My y1 is 18 over my x2 is 27 minus my x1 is 9. So we get -15 over 18. That looks similar, right? I can pull a 3 out of top and bottom. So 15 divided by 3 would be -5. 18 divided by 3 would be, oh boy, would be 6. And there's your slope. So we got the exact same thing, no matter which way we do it. Okay? I want you guys to try this one. I want you to find the completely simplified slope between 3, 4, and -1, 2. Go ahead and pause and try that one. All right, let's do a couple more that are a little bit different. So the next one that I'm going to give you looks like this. 11, -5, and 11, 2. Okay, so I'm going to do it with my equation. If you want to do it with your table, you're more than welcome to. So I'm going to do x1, y1, x2, y2. I know my slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have 2 minus -5 over 11 minus 11. With a minus minus, we have to bam bam to make it a plus. So 2 plus 5 is 7. 11 minus 11 is 0. Now take your calculators. We already talked a little bit about this with the graphing. What is 7 divided by 0? Oh boy, it's an error. So anytime it's an error, that tells us that it is undefined. I just put UND. I shorthand it. Okay, so it's undefined. Now what does that mean? Undefined, remember, is a straight up and down line. Okay, I posted a thing on Slope Dude. Go back and watch it. I know it's torture, but I promise it will drill that into your noggins. Okay, so undefined is when 0 is on the bottom. So your simplified version of your slope would actually be undefined. Let's try another one. So this one we're going to do 12, 12, and 5. Oh my goodness, what is happening today? And 15, 12. I didn't leave room there. All right, so what do we have? We have x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's see what happens. So y2 would be 12. Y1 would also be 12. So those are done. And then do your x's. So we have x2 is 15. x1 is 12. And what happens? 12 minus 12 is 0. 15 minus 12 is 3. So when a 0 is on top, check it in your calculator. 0 divided by 3 comes out to be what? What comes out to be 0. Okay? So this would be a line that would go straight side to side. Okay? You're not going up and down at all. You're just going straight side to side. So you can do 0, or you could even write out 0 slope, whichever one you want. Okay? I want you guys to try this one. You're going to do 9, negative 6, and 3, negative 6. Go ahead and pause and try that one. All right, so we've done it from a graph, we've done it from a table, we've done it from 2 points. Now we're going to have to find slope from an equation. Before we can find slope from an equation, we have to be able to solve for y. So that's what we're going to practice first. Now, why are we solving for y? When we get into graphing, you're going to learn the equation y equals mx plus b. This is our slope-intercept form. It's the first type of graphing that we're going to do next week. So what you need to know right now is this m right here, whatever is in there for that m, it'll be a number, that represents our slope. So if I can get an equation to have y alone, I know whatever's in front of the x is going to be my slope. So let's practice just solving for y. So this is example number 8. We have 3x minus 4y equals 24. Okay, I'm going to do my dotted line down from my equal sign. So what do I need to isolate? I need to get anything attached to that y alone first. So what else is over there with the y? I have a positive 3x. So I'm going to do the opposite to move him over. So I'm going to subtract 3x to both sides. So this is gone. I bring my negative 4y down. And I always put my x's first. Just make sure that that sign stays with the x. So we have negative 3x plus 24. Because I want it to look like y equals mx plus b. My x it needs to be first. It doesn't have to be. Personal preference, okay? So now what am I going to do? Negative 4 times y. So I'm going to divide by negative 4. Now instead of writing the other side as one big fraction, I'm actually going to split it up and just divide each thing by 4. And I'll show you why. So this is gone, left with y. On the other side, I have a negative over negative. That becomes positive. Can I simplify 3 over 4? Nope. So I just bring it down as a fraction. We want slope as fractions. And then 24 divided by negative 4 leaves me with negative 6. Okay? So this would be in y equals mx plus b. Okay, this would be my m, this would be my b. We'll talk about what b represents later. All right, so let's try another one. Let's try negative 2y equals 12x minus 6. Okay, there's nothing to move if I do my dotted line. I just have this negative 2 attached to the y. If they're attached like that, they're being multiplied. So the opposite of multiplying would be divide. We're going to divide each thing by negative 2. So that's gone. We're left with y equals negative 6x. Negative divided by negative is a plus. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay? And that would be the same thing if we had had this. Okay, those mean the same thing. It's what's in front of that x that's important right now. Let's do another one. We have 2 times 3x plus y equals 18. Well, this one I have my parentheses with a number in front of it, so we're going to have to distribute. So we're going to distribute that 2 to get 6x plus 2y equals 18. Now I'm going to do my dotted line. What do I need to isolate? I need to get this 2y by itself, so what's over there with it? I have a positive 6x. So I'm going to take the opposite by subtracting it to the other side. So that's gone. I'm left with 2y equals, you can either do 18 minus 6x or you can write negative 6x plus 18. Either way, as long as that negative is in front of the 6. 2 times y, the opposite of that would be divide. We're going to divide each thing by 2 and simplify it. 2 divided by 2, that's gone. Becomes a 1. So y equals negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Bring down your x. And then 18 divided by 2 would be plus 9. So there's your equation solved for y. Okay, I want you guys to try this next one. You're going to try to solve for y with 3y minus 9 equals 15x. Go ahead and pause and try that one. Okay, now that we have practiced solving for y, now we're going to actually find the slope from the equation. Okay, so exact same process, except now our answer instead of the equation is going to be the specific slope. So the first one, we have 3x minus 5 equals 3y. Okay, so this is just written a little bit backwards, and if that bothers you, we could always just write the equation a different way. We could always write 3y equals 3x minus 5 if you want to make it look like what we have been seeing. Okay, so I have my dotted line straight down from the equal sign. All I have is a 3 times y. Opposite of times would be dividing. I'm going to divide each thing by 3. That gets rid of the 3 in front of the y, becomes a 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1x. And then I'm just going to leave this a fraction, 5/3. Now, if you wrote this as y equals x minus 5/3, it's the exact same thing. This is fine and this is fine. Okay? Whenever there's nothing written in front of a variable, we automatically know that it's a 1, so you don't have to write it. So now what did we talk about before? We talked about our m, which is always in front of the x. The m is always attached to the x, is our slope. So what's in front of x? We have 1. So my slope is 1. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do 2x plus 4y equals 16. Okay, so what do I need to get alone? I need to get my y alone. So I'm going to highlight him, and let's start solving. So I have my dotted line straight down from the equal sign. I have a positive 2x out in front, so I'm going to do the opposite and subtract it. So that guy's gone. We have 4y equals negative 2x plus 16. Again, you could have written 16 minus 2x. And then I have 4 times y, so I'm going to divide each thing by 4 and then simplify. So that's gone, becomes a 1. Okay, so negative 2 over 4. Let's simplify that. What goes into 2 and 4? 2 goes into 2 and 4. So I'm going to divide the top. 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Bring down my x. Plus 16 divided by 4 is 4. So I need my slope. It's always the dude in front of the x. So my slope is negative 1/2. Now let me show you that if you had written it a little bit different. If you had written 16 minus 2x, when you divided each thing by 4, you still get the exact same thing. You still end up with 4 minus 1/2 x. So in front of that x is still that negative 1/2. That's still your slope. Let's try one more together. We have 9y plus 18 equals 3x. Again, we need to get our y alone. So here's the chunk with the y. I'm going to do my dotted line. Okay, how do I get the 9y alone? I have a plus 18. Opposite of that is minus 18. So I have 9y equals 3x minus 18. I have 9 times y, so I'm going to divide each thing by 9 to get rid of that 9 on the y. That's gone. 3 divided by 9. Okay, so what goes into 3 and 9? 3. So I'm going to divide 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Bring down my x. Negative 18 divided by 9 would be minus 2. So my slope would be 1/3. Okay, I want you guys to try this one. Once you finish this one, this is your last one to do, and you can move on. So we have 2y plus 3x equals 22. Go ahead and pause the video and try that now.